Volleyball Nation, my name is Nick McRae. I'm your current boys U19 Youth National Team head coach, and I'm also the current associate head coach at Long Beach State University with the men's volleyball program. A little bit about today, my intent is to kind of go over some insight and information that I've learned over the past 8 years working within the USA High Performance Pipeline. I've gathered all sorts of insight from head coaches that have led the youth team and the junior team. And I wanted to give you some direct communication for myself with what goes into making the youth national team, and to give you some tools and takeaways for what you can do at home if you're a boy or a girl that can help improve your chances of making your age national team. A couple guys that I give all the credit to and who've taught me what it means to represent the United States of America and what it means to wear the red, white, and blue. One is Coach Alan Knight. He's our former United States men's national team head coach and led us in the London Olympics. And two is Coach Tyler Hildebrand, who's our current U.S. Beach national team director of coaching. Why I bring up these two guys is because they've coached at the highest level. They've coached indoor and on the beach, and I've learned from both of them different styles and different thoughts of how to progress and master your craft, and also how to make a team that then goes to represent the United States and competes at the highest level. So the big four takeaways that we're going to go over today is, one, stating your goal. And whatever that goal is, how to vocally state it and then create a roadmap and a plan once you state it. Two is to create your job description. And that can be a positional job description in what you're going to stay true to. Three is to go over some of our volleyball systems, our volleyball systems with what makes the United States great. That's our offensive routes, freeing up our athleticism, how we're going to bring stress to every opponent, our block and defense systems, how we're going to adapt and adjust and prepare to play different styles of volleyball against other countries, our serving philosophies, and then our mechanics with how we pass the ball. And then the final thing is just how to fully free up and to be the best version of you. So one of my favorite quotes actually comes from Kobe Bryant, and I watched his documentary Muse this past summer, and he states, "We all can be masters of our craft, but you have to make sacrifices that come along with making that decision." The big thing in watching his documentary, and as he dives into mastering his craft and the sacrifices that he made, the main takeaway is that literally anybody in the world can master their craft. It doesn't matter what your background is, who you are, where you come from. It just takes the sacrifices and the will to be the best version of yourself. So from there, we'll start, and as we have that in the back of our brain, what am I willing to sacrifice? We're going to start with stating our goal. And some examples. I want to make the junior national team. I want to make the youth national team. I want to make my varsity team. I want to make the top club team. I want to be a starter on all of these teams. I want to become the best version of myself. I want to win a championship. I want to win a gold medal. Perfect. We now have the outcome of what we're striving for. That's the goal. Now from there, how do we get there? So there's two options. We can create it's about setting the roadmap with how am I going to accomplish the goal that I just stated. So option one is just play the lottery. It takes no skill at all. I want to make my youth national team. I hope I make it. I'm one out of 100,000 that has the possibility of making it. I'm not going to put in any work, and we'll see what happens. Or option two is stating that goal. I want to make the youth national team, and I'm going to create a plan. I'm going to go over my job description. I'm going to study as hard as I can. I'm going to work as hard as I can, and I'm going to give myself the best chance to make that team. And along the way, I'm going to become the best version of myself. So where do you start? That leads us to the positional job descriptions. What you see is just the skills of volleyball: passing, setting, attacking, defense, serving, blocking. There's so much more, but just giving you these 6 skills when writing your positional job description, where you start is actually ranking them, and rank them in order from 1 to 6 on the importance of those skills for either your position or for who you are. So that leads us into actually knowing yourself. So individual characteristics that are not the same with everybody is people have different physical attributes. People have different arms as far as attackers goes. People have different volleyball IQ. People have different size. Different people jump different heights. Different people have different platforms. But the must-have characteristics that are fully within your control are your work ethic, your effort, your competitive drive, having a growth mindset and being open to being vulnerable, to learning and to growing, having a willingness to communicate. It doesn't necessarily have to come easy to you, but you have to be willing and open to work on your ability to communicate with one another. And do you make others around you better? So who are you? On your journey with knowing who you are and figuring out who you're trying to emulate, that's where I give a few examples here. 1 being Matt Anderson, 2 being Taylor Sander, and 3 being TJ DeFalco, who are 3 of the best in the business from their physicality, from their work ethic, from their ability to jump out of the gym, and having the world's greatest arms. Is this who you're trying to emulate and become? For some of you, the answer is yes. And those are guys that you'll watch on film, and you will take tools from them to try and improve your own game. And I'll give 2 other examples of an outside hitter, 1 being Riley Salmon. He's an assistant coach on our youth national team, and 2 being Aldis Berzins. I've coached with Aldis within the USA pipeline, and he won a gold medal in the 1984 Olympics, and Coach Riley won a gold medal in the 2008 Olympics. Both of these guys were known as the best passer in the business. They can rip their serve, they can rip the bic, and they can also pass over half the court. So you then have 2 examples of, am I the 0-1 who's TJ, Matt Anderson, or Taylor Sander, or am I the 0-2 who's known as the greatest passer in the world, and I get to emulate Riley and Aldis? People ask all the time, and here's an example of 2 different outside hitters and how they rank their skills. So option 1, attacking's ranked first, passing second, serving, blocking, defense, setting. And then option 2, passing's first, then attacking, then blocking, serving. There's so many different options and variances of these job descriptions that you could have. So the main question that I want to reiterate to you is, Coach, which of these options do you choose for your roster of 22? We have both. And we're not just going with one, and we're not just going with the other one. We have a mixture of both, and that makes our gym that much better because we have a variety of different attackers, a variety of different mindsets, and a variety of different skill sets that different athletes have prioritized in their life to be the best version of them. More now than ever, we need to talk about this equation. Whether we're at home in quarantine or as we continue to widen the base in the USA pipeline and have hundreds of thousands of athletes coming with their primary goal to make our national, junior, and youth national teams, we need to encourage and enlighten everybody, from athletes to coaches to parents, and remind you, yes, it's hard, but ideally, remember, we can only control ourselves and our responses. We don't have full control over whether it be what drills are going on, what court coach is putting me on, or sometimes who's making the team. I'm only in control of myself, and we can transfer the same thing to the world that we live in too. So the sooner that you're able to eliminate your concerns and the events that you have no control over, the sooner you're going to continue to progress yourself along that roadmap to being the best version of you. So in talking about our USA brand of volleyball, I actually want to start with our youth national team philosophy. This has been written alongside with former U.S. men's national team head coach Alan Knipe, and he helped collaborate with me to define exactly what our philosophy is going to be. So our USA youth national team will be a product of our team culture. We will train as hard as we can, communicate on the reason why, and trust one another to do their job. But first, in order for our guys to do their job, we will teach every position and athlete what their job is. Through competition and when faced with adversity, our team will rise or fall to the level of our training. This is why our training will be so important. We will not ask our guys to do something different in a match that we've never trained. In training, we will go over everything that we will come up. This goes with our USA offense. We have an offense for perfect pass. We have an offense for passing the ball 10 feet off the net. When our setter gets pushed into area 2 or area 4, we have a complete offensive package and we're prepared for that moment. And from there, we run all sorts of varying routes, and the primary intent is to completely free up our guys to unleash their athleticism and bring the stress on every opponent that we come across. From here, we move on to our block and defense system. When we go into NORCECO, we're going to play 8 different brands of volleyball against 8 different countries. We're going to see then in World Championships, year 2 of the cycle, there's 24 different countries who all have their own brand of volleyball. So when preparing for 26 to 32 different teams, from the coaching standpoint, we prepare our USA base block and defense way that we train. And the primary things that actually go into that is to have perfect preparation for our opponents. And then as they try to bring the stress on us, how are we going to be able to communicate with one another, to adapt live time, and to make any adjustments that come our way? But the 2 things that we train, it's either a read-based block and defense team or there's a front and commit-based block and defense team. The generic way that we start training is our USA Youth National Team base is a read-based block and defense team. That's as much as I'll go into it. And if other people are watching saying, all right, he's a read-based coach, let's set the quick. Perfect, because the most important thing is the ability to communicate, adapt, and adjust live time. Serving philosophies. We went over 2 different serving philosophies at holiday camp. One is pace and direction, which gives a specific area on the court, and our primary intent is to miss that serve less than 3% of the time. And the other mindset is completely different. It's free up and hit your serve, and we will deal with the outcome of misses later on. So there's 2 different styles that we've trained. So all of our guys that we've trained with holiday camp, A1, HP championships, A2, and A3 will be prepared and equipped with both mindsets. Should something happen in a match, we're not going all in here or all in there. We're actually able to communicate and choose which tactic we're going to use. And then from a passing mechanics standpoint, we train 3 different ways to pass the ball. And again, it's amazing and great being on a staff with one of the world's greatest passers, Coach Riley Salmon, and he's teaching us how to pass the jump serve, our mechanics for a jump float, and then our mechanics for when someone's absolutely bombing away. So from the volleyball system standpoint, that goes overall for, again, this intent is just to recap to those who've heard this and to maybe take some notes and go online and start researching and watching again. So the next time we are in the gym, you're completely prepared and ready to succeed. So coach, what's the magic equation for making your team? Something that doesn't get publicly talked about a lot. But again, I'm a believer in clear and open communication, is there's kind of two types of athletes that get talked about, especially when creating the youth national team, for example. First, one would be the prototypical huge athlete who might not be ready right now, but they might be ready for our national team 4 years from now. So what do you do with that group? And then the other is the win now guys. Maybe they won't be involved, or maybe someone hasn't labeled them at being a guy that should be looked at 4 years from now, but they are ready to rock and roll right now, and they're kind of the heart and soul here to compete as hard as they can. So how many prototypical guys do you go with, and how many win now guys do you go with, or do you go one or the other? Well, we go with both, and there's no magic equation with it. Reminder that once the 12 get picked for a roster, or right now there have been 22 that have been identified for the youth national team training team, there's always going to be someone left off. There's going to be someone left off from here. There's going to be someone left off from here. There's going to be someone left off from the 12 or from the 22. And that's where we lean on. I encourage you to control your response and not give up at that moment. But my intent by saying this, that yes, there is certain guys, but there's no magic equation. What we'll lean on and we'll finish with later on is the actual magic is every individual athlete. And that's why we're going to finish on being the best version of you that is possible. The coach's job is to communicate, to give the positional job descriptions, to lay the foundation in how trust can actually be built, to open up the lines of communication, to be the first. Not going to wait for a 16 or 17-year-old young man to have to approach me. It's my job to open up the door where, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable and we can talk about all the expectations. So to parents and athletes, if you have any questions, don't hold it in. It's okay to ask. It's our job as coaches and as USA Volleyball to communicate exactly what needs to be done, and that will only help you with creating your roadmap and continuing the journey. So be you. Whatever the best version of you is, that is what we are looking for. Do not strive to be someone else. What I mean by that, don't strive to be someone else. Kobe Bryant was not trying to be Shaq. Kobe Bryant was trying to be the best version of Kobe Bryant. Earlier, we looked at Matt Anderson, Taylor Sander, TJ DeFalco, Riley Salmon, Aldis Berzins. It's okay to take tools from that professional to add to your craft. However, your primary intent should be the best version of you that you're capable of being. So you don't need to be someone else. You don't need to come in and we have 12 versions of someone. You need to be the best version of you. That's kind of what that means. Free up. How do you free up? During tryouts, when you make a team, during training and tournaments, just a reminder and a recap. You're going to try it against thousands of other athletes in the country. Who do you want to be? Are you the person that's fully freeing up and whatever happens, happens? Or are you going to let the outside events control you? All this reiterates and refocuses on controlling your response with the primary intent to free up. Reminder, when we get to competition, we're not going to ask for someone new. We're not going to magically see a group of gamers that we've never seen before. We're going to rise or fall to the level of our training. So preparing yourself for the toughest moments will hopefully allow yourself to free up when that time comes. The preparation occurs now. We talked about that. When we get to competition, we lean on how we've trained. And we've done that the entire time. Who you're striving to be and what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? That's my final statement to you guys. Who do you want to be? Set your goal, create the roadmap. What are you willing to sacrifice? Remind yourself to create a job description and fully free up. I love you guys. Go Team USA. Thank you for watching. And hopefully this gave you some insight of current youth national team head coach and a little bit of the ins and outs that occur. Again, communication's key, and I can't thank you enough. Love you guys.